February the 7th, 2020. Welcome. Takes us a few minutes to get up to smashing speed. Got a crazy big show for everybody tonight. An absurd, unbelievable, just a wrong picture. We'll get there. You're wondering what that was? That was Fukushima. So all of those medias are claiming they're in the building 100 feet above the deck you're seeing. That's one of the nuclear meltdowns in Japan. You have to go back a few weeks and you can watch some of my videos on that. Obviously the building doesn't exist, but let's get on with the show. And we have an amazing presentation for everybody tonight. We get rid of that music in the background that I love, by the way. But unfortunately, we need to make this. And so we got so much to get through. We're not going to waste any time. Study estimates. First off, I'm going to give you some of my choice picks, about 20 of them from the last week and a half of covering this to try to get you up to speed. On the 31st, there was a study came out estimated was 76,000 was infected at that point, and that it would escalate way up from there. You can go read that. So just to remind you, the first few headlines are from the last week or so that are important headlines. There was another study showing 100,000 infections in a week. That was on the 29th of January. The estimated 44,000 were quarantined at that time. And that you can expect up to 138 million by February 20th. There is a cover-up going on, for sure, 100%. And that'll be evident here tonight. China accused of burning bodies in secret. So, just imagine if everything that we're pointing at, they just came out and just blah, 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 and said, we're burning bodies, and blah, we're hiding the numbers. Total pandemonium worldwide, right? And drones are chasing people around. It tells you, what this does tell you, is you're in unusual times when the police are afraid to approach you. They're afraid to go down the street is what it is. And so they're out there spraying gas up and down the streets to kill the virus that appears to be airborne. Go home. We're in unusual times. Unbelievable. Don't come outside. Stay at home is contributing to society. This is a pastor who's claiming this is he's a vile person, who's claiming this is a prophecy. Man-made virus is a prophecy. And it's just unbelievable. Praise the Lord, the prophecy is coming true. There's lots of crazies out there. We're going to try to bring you the documentation. China begins clinical trial. And so we're just catching up on the headlines from the last week and a half. We haven't got many more to get through, another 7 or 8. So the new hospital, right away, they said, well, we're going to be doing clinical trials for coronavirus drugs. And these hospitals have prison bars on the room. You can't get out. The locks are locked from outside. You can't get out of the room. And so this is just human trials on the most vulnerable of society. All of this is definitely painting a picture of desperate times, is what we're looking at. When you build 2 prison hospitals that you're looking at 2,600 beds in 10 days, and you admit you're going to start injecting them with shit. You got prison bars on the walls, 2,300 beds rather, that are using hotels, they're using stadiums. Some of the hospitals got no people there, like doctors or nurses. They just ran through the ground, and the infection is rampant throughout the hospitals. You got a study in that coming up. although there is no effective cure yet, you got extraordinary, where originally you had two people in Italy that they thought might have had coronavirus on a cruise ship with 6,000 people. He quarantined it. We knew right then this was different than anything else we've ever seen in history. And when the police are all of a sudden saying 7 years for sharing news on social media, and there's a county in one of the provinces that is threatening the death penalty for anybody that infects somebody else with this. All of this is pointing towards this is something that they're hiding certain things about this particular virus, because we've never dreamt, Hollywood has never even tried to depict any of these draconian people could get the virus more than once. Recovering don't make you immune. And my favorite headline of all time, in Hong Kong, the boss says that the government workers can't wear medical masks. Faking coronavirus. You got people going out there looking for social media plugs by pretending they got coronavirus. Like, so when you see that being mimicked, it means it's reached a massive audience. Screening misses more than half the infected patients. This was our last show. So it's not even getting half the patients. They don't have the kits. They don't have the people, the manpower. They don't have the qualified people, etc., etc., etc. We'd rather die at home than go to quarantine. That story actually is terrifying, but it really does. That's the last one in the reminder list. That was to remind you of the last week and a half to get you up to speed for what's actually coming at you right now. Is China telling the truth? No, it's not. Absolutely, unequivocally, no. So when they're, like, have you ever seen them do this for the flu before? Have you ever seen them do that before for the flu? They got 5 of the trucks, one right behind the other, going around disinfecting. Like, so this is airborne, and it's landing on stuff, and it's dangerous for a long period of time. That's the only reason conceivable you would do something like this. This is beyond anything Hollywood would have dreamed up. Don't panic, but 5 million people left the city where the coronavirus originated shortly before it was put under a quarantine. Never, ever, ever lose that out of the equation. Always keep it into the equation. If you don't put that in the equation, it's like heading out into a desert with everything you need except for water. That has to be in the equation, okay? They're just jacking people on the street. Did I see you sneezing? Show me your paws. You're coming with us. According to the South China Morning Post itself, officials may not have acted soon enough, as an estimated 5 million people left the city before it was placed on lockdown. That's the South China Morning Post, massive media in China. And yet we're not seeing the media acknowledging that, just in little tiny. You go back to my last video, you'll find 4 links that I've gathered up over the last couple of weeks where they actually mention it, but it wasn't put on a pedestal like that headline. That's the first time I've ever seen it on a pedestal. It's disappeared ever since. Based on all indications, things are likely to get far worse. Yeah, when 5 million people get out of your city, it's going to get worse. I think that's a fair assessment of the problem. The recent numbers coming out now, the numbers for the infections are actually going down. They got numbers missing, but now the numbers are going backwards. 81 new deaths. The death numbers are going up. And they stopped announcing critical condition victims. We estimated now you're looking at close to 3,000 critical condition, life support. So if you didn't have life support, the number would be 3,700 dead. They're doing everything they can to downplay it. The official numbers is actually, we got another headline. It changes for every media, by the way. The biggest number is 617, it's coming up a little bit later. And then they say, well, the detection, they don't got kits, they don't got facilities for people to go to. The ones that they got are overwhelmed a week and a half ago, right? And so I think they got a little wheel, and they spin the wheel and they go, 2,841. Let the slaves regurgitate that. And then you come here with all these new numbers, but they stick to the old number, 25,000, several days old. So this was they looked at another study saying it's 10 times worse than what they're announcing. That just came out a few hours ago. Said the vast majority of the cases were likely to have been missed, and we showed you another study from yesterday or last show talking about how you're going to find less than 50% because they're overwhelmed by millions of people. Hoax busted. There was another story, and when they say the words hoax busted, the story came out, and then they put out that story and called it busted. There was, because there's, and we'll get to it coming up, where there was an accidental publish saying 24,000 people were dead. And then that was retracted. But when we get to that, I'll explain why that most likely is real. And that this is most likely real too. That they're crazy enough to do stuff like that. So China sought court approval to kill 20,000 patients to avoid the spread of the virus. There's other headlines coming up where they talk about they're sacrificing the Hubei province to save the world. So when you hear these kind of framing of the narratives, these connotations, you can't just disregard them. Now, if you're just getting one headline, it's easy to just, whatever, go back and click on your TV. But if you're like me, where you're chewing through hundreds of headlines, looking for documentation, and you start putting that into the pile, it fits. So 10 times worse than feared. That would make that, now that's a pretty wild headline, okay? I'm not saying it's real. I'm just saying don't disregard it. Don't be foolish to disregard this. They have the military controlling the hospitals. That's what they do for a living. They kill, right? Their solution to everything is kill it. Is coronavirus 10 times worse? And their other solution is everything is a nail. Let's get the biggest hammer in the solar system and try to hit it. The death toll is mainland China. The epicenter of the outbreak reached 637 yesterday. So it was over 32,000 cases, not 25,000. You see how the numbers jack around, right? And it's a mild disease that might be missed if somebody... So you can carry it as a very mild... You won't know you're sick for a week or two. But you can infect several thousand if you're a cashier or something. And none of the tests is going to be 100% sensitive. Well, first off, you don't even know what it really is. You're still fighting over where it came from. Nobody actually got a virus for or a vaccine for it. So without a vaccine, then that means they don't know what it is. If they got a vaccine, then they got a good handle on it, or at least they can describe it. But if they haven't got a vaccine, then they actually don't know what it is. Do you get how this works? And the tests are not 100% sensitive. No, they're just making it up as they're going along. And it might capture 10% of the cases. Maybe. So roughly 39 new 100. This was a Wednesday headline, I believe. On Wednesday, compared with 3,700 on Thursday and 3,200 yesterday. The numbers are going backwards all of a sudden, but the death rates are still up. The numbers are not going backwards. They're losing manpower. They've isolated that area now for a week and a half by locking it down. and then there's nothing getting in, nothing getting out. There's no way for it to go backwards. It's not just, there's no, I don't see countries and industry and everybody else acting like it's going to disappear and go backwards. You know what I'm saying? Because they're in the know, they're in influential positions. They have all kinds of ears and want to gain favor with them. If it was going backwards, it would have leaked out. And how does it go backwards? We've never had a epidemic or flu in history just instantly go boom, 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 and then bang, 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 bang. China sacrificed a province to save the world from coronavirus. All your media, by the way, I'm bringing to you is all mainstream media. That is an incredible headline. That is something you better take serious, because that's not a joke. You lock down, literally the whole province is locked down, and they started off with 60 million, and they went up from there. Hang on, I'll try not to slurp. Give me a thumbs up while you're waiting. And just kidding, don't worry about it. China sacrifices a province to save the world. That's the gallows laugh, by the way. And not all the headlines by any means that we're going to be talking about, not even half of them are going to be below. And there's a lot of them below the video. Just an absurd amount of headlines, right? But just as we get further down the show, it's just headline, 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 headline. We'll get through it. We don't rush this stuff. This is too important. And then the landlocked region of 60 million people, unprecedented scenes emerging. Musician Yaru's grandmother died on Monday after slipping into a coma. She was repeatedly turned away from the hospitals, and we got a study coming up saying it's probably a good thing, and unfortunately in her case it's a bad thing. There's nothing they can do. They're overwhelmed on top of that. It's not their fault. They didn't create this, right? They're trying to deal with it, and they're ran into the ground, and everybody's kind of forgot about them. The world needs to support those people. If the province was not sealed off, some people would have gone all around the country to try to get medical help. Well, 5 million people got out. I showed those headlines earlier. And would have turned the whole nation into an epidemic-stricken area, which is what we're seeing. The quarantine brought a lot of hardship to Hubei and Wuhan, but it was the right thing to do, says to China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And the problem being is that when you get into this industry, or you get into a country like this, the only people that getting those jobs are the inbreeded children, right? And so they're most likely not qualified mentally or spiritually for the job. They got the job because they come from a certain family. Delay by local officials allowed the pathogen to circulate widely among an unsuspecting public. Right. Because 5 million got out on top of that. And signs was being transmitted among people were seen at the beginning of January, actually the end of December. Authorities still allowed large-scale public events to take place. It came like a sudden downpour that caught Wuhan off guard. A professor at the School of Medicine, Wuhan University of Science Technologies. The quarantine soon widened to encompass nearly the entire province. So most of these are just headlines. Some of these I'm going to go through a few paragraphs. But because there's so much, and I got a good memory, we'll just go through all this. But it did effectively stem the spread to elsewhere. No. It's really interesting. So, well, we'll say this for late in the video, but we're not seeing this. Like, it's really weird because they're spraying these disinfectants in large swaths of the city with major industrial equipment. You're locked in the house. They're literally taping people's doors so they know if they came out or not. They are chasing people into their homes, get off the street. Even if there's no one out on the street, you're supposed to go home. Which all points to this being a weaponized strain. This is not the typical flu. You don't do this for typical flus. Some will say that Hubei was sacrificed, but it effectively, well, we don't know if it effectively stemmed the spread. We're talking 6 months of hell ahead of us. The quarantine, if we're lucky. In Liberia, 2014, an impoverished neighborhood of 70,000 people were shut off during an Ebola outbreak in an impoverished area on top of that, triggering riots. Well, they live on pennies every day, right? So they have to make money every day to eat. And who's going to go and feed all these people when there's Ebola running around? See? They basically, as the lockdown continues with no end in sight, it's raising ethical and legal questions. Really, professor at Peking University Law School, the lockdown shouldn't mean the city gets deserted and people are left to survive or die on their own, which is what we're seeing. And a lot of the government ran away with the 5 million, right? 2 new hospitals with 2,600 beds. These are not hospitals. These are human experiment facilities, prisons, were completed in 10 days by 2,000 migrant workers. Why would you use migrant workers? Because the regular workers would tell their families what was going on, right? Well, stadiums, offices, and hotels are being converted into isolation units. Stadiums, offices, hotels. China shocked over the death of a doctor who revealed coronavirus. Well, actually, they come out and denied it, right? The official, this is what they've been doing all along. They keep doing this, and they think it's acceptable. Well, you got the great firewall of China. So most Chinese will never, ever, zero possibility of watching YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or anything else, right? Yeah, they got their own network, and they monitor it like their mommies and daddies, dotting over a child's first steps. They're out there willing to pounce on everybody, and there's no one to hold them accountable, right? So they denied it originally. We got a number of stories coming up, but he died, 33 years old, healthy as they get. Hong Kong to quarantine visitors from mainland China. So if you're coming into Hong Kong, you're going into quarantine. Again, they don't do stuff like this for the flu. They're doing stuff like this because this is something different, right? There's no reason to do this for the flu. Zero. There's no precedence, anything close to it. Then a 14-day quarantine on all visitors from mainland China as it battles to prevent the spread of the coronavirus. 14-day quarantine, so they're going to let people come into the country, but you got to go. Now, how are they going to manage that? What they're looking for is volunteers to help them manage that, believe it or not. And there's a story about that coming up. The policy comes into effect Saturday, tomorrow. Probably the day down there. Officials refused to close the border as demanded by the medical staff who went on a strike. A lot of people didn't know. Tens of thousands of people arrived from the mainland on Tuesday alone. So millions in the Hubei and Zhejiang provinces have been told only one person per household can go outside every 2 days. This is panic mode, what you're looking at. They're panicking. Chinese health authorities insist suspected cases are falling. Now, Chinese health authorities insist cases are falling. But there was no evidence, we don't hear anybody else on the planet backing up those assertions. These figures include an additional 4,000 cases and 6,500 deaths on Tuesday. And then the numbers went backwards. But it's most likely 100% unequivocally that they're lying to everybody about the numbers. And we've seen the numbers. We've been covering this for 9 days or something. And what we've seen was the numbers in almost every media was different. But yet they all say it's the official numbers that they got from so-and-so website. And this is how we got in trouble in the first place, is they lied and deceived and manipulated and hid it away. Then they let 5 million out over several weeks before they finally put up a quarantine. Just out of one city, which was Wuhan. Therefore, they would have done similar numbers in other cities in that province. And you would have had a large percentage of them would have been infected. They wanted to let their loved ones and government officials all to get out, but they didn't want to. And this is why the doctors, there was 8 doctors, they were saying, hey, there's something going on here, They were like, no, shut up. So all of this they're keeping people in the house because they don't want to lose authority or power, because they're actually insecure about their jobs. Window of opportunity to act, says the World Health Organization. I laugh when I say it, because the World Health Organization's legacy is nothing but incompetence, antiquated, useless fools, and well-placed idiots. Their kickback is to get that job from being evil in their countries. They're appointed, they're not elected, they don't have the consensus, and their legacy is unbelievably deceitful and dishonest, disingenuous, and deceptive. They're just unbelievable, hideous legacy. They need to be replaced. They're not functional, the World Health Organization. And when you look at what they've done in Fukushima, left millions of children there to suffer illnesses and diseases, autoimmune deficiencies and injuries. If you look at the material that I've been covering for many years, there's no reason that there shouldn't be war crimes, crimes against humanity charges. The government has been accused of downplaying the severity, which we proved over and over at the start of the outbreak and never stopped, of course. Once you start telling a lie, you got to keep telling a bigger lie to keep the old lie alive. In some cases, attempting to keep the news of it secret. One doctor in Wuhan, who tried to make his fellow colleagues late last year, was accused of making false comments and told by the police to stop or we'll beat you to that. What's the latest around the world? 27 cases human-to-human infections occurred in 9 countries. Human-to-human infections is considered the worst-case scenario. But the World Health Organization never even got into first gear till less than a week ago. And they're still in first gear. And they want $60 million for them and another $600 million to do something with it for 3 months. What are they going to do? If you put all your eggs into one basket, which is what you're doing by putting the World Health Organization in a position of authority, you're putting all your eggs in one basket, and that basket, we know, got 55,000 holes in it. Don't be surprised if it backfires. Because that's their legacy. Is all their baskets got holes in them. And everything they put in the basket falls to the floor and cracks open. China reports 70 new coronavirus deaths. You see all of these headlines, but the numbers always end up going back. See, when you started, China or Japan just got another 41 infections on a ship with 20 infections, which means the ship was infected. And they got them out in the harbor, anchored off in Japan, because we don't want nothing to interfere with the Olympics. The increase brings the total number of deaths in the province to 549. So they just keep lying over and over everywhere I go. Outbreak death tolls climbs to 564. This was a couple of days ago, right? It was absurd to suggest that was the actual numbers. This is what I mean. All the media is willingly out there regurgitating whatever these people puke up. The Hubei Health Authority reported that 70 more people died. So you keep getting these weird numbers. So very rare, but you see him talking about that one there. 756 are in critical condition, which is 100% of a lie, because the numbers are going up straight. They couldn't have dropped by 2/3 overnight, and that's the only people we see ever reported that many days now. When that was the normal critical condition every day, I was hunting those numbers. We were sharing them, right? At ground zero, that's Australian, so they're gonna. It's just shocking. We don't actually have a functional media to me. A new record for the outbreak. I got a number there a number of days ago. Was over 100 in one day died. Because all the media is giving you different numbers on purpose. Residents in central of South Korea threw eggs and other objects at the government officials. Never heard that one before. Good on them, eh? But on poor reason, of course. Over plans to quarantine 700 evacuees from Wuhan at a government facility in their neighborhood. Well, there's 5 million ran away before they put up the quarantine. This is what I'm talking about. Nobody bothers reminding the people that are trying to understand this what the real issues are. Australia has been criticized over its decision to quarantine 300 Wuhan evacuees on a remote island used in the past to banish asylum seekers and criminals, which is Australia, by the way. Some inhabitants of the island say the government is turning their home into a leopard colony. The utter panic everywhere. Unbelievable panic. Which means this is not the normal flu. If you got a couple of people infected on a ship with 6,000, you're all quarantined. So do you think this is just a normal flu when you're seeing everything I'm showing you? Because you need to understand that this is definitely way different than anything we've ever heard of in history. Hong Kong said on Wednesday, 3,600 people on board a cruise ship returned away from a Taiwanese port will be quarantined until health checks are completed. But they're limited to what the numbers are they can do. The UK can only do 100 a day. You got a ship of 3,600 people. The whole ship could be infected before you get to testing most of them. After 3 passengers. So the whole ship now is seized because 3 passengers had the flu. So they're not telling us something, obviously. And they're not telling us the real numbers. We got evidence they're burning corpses. We got studies saying 50,000 a day from legitimate sources, like Imperial College. I know I burnt them for their fake studies before, but I don't think this is the same thing. An Air Asian plane carrying 107 Malaysians and their non-Malaysian spouses and children from Wuhan arrived in Kuala Lumpur on Tuesday. They'll be quarantined for 2 weeks. We've seen even the most impoverished countries like, you're getting quarantined. You might have the coronavirus. You're going into quarantine. This tells you everything you really need to be worried about is real. This is very concerning. This is when you're quarantining entire ships because 2 or 3 people are suspect, and everybody that goes to another country is immediately thrown into quarantine. Thailand on Tuesday admitted 138 just flown in from Wuhan. They're gone into quarantine. The Navy facilities all over the world now turn into quarantine centers. Probably the worst thing you could ever be quarantined at is a military base. Because they're half whack jobs down there. Isolation area, you can see it's got they got a gate put in there, right? See that? Crazy stuff. Drug makers see long road ahead in coronavirus vaccine race. Long road ahead. Now we've heard it's going to take 5 years from Bill Gates. It's going to take 5 years to get a virus. All the way that it can be done in 3 or 4 months. Bill Gates hates you with a passion. If you're not familiar, he hates your guts. It will take at least 12 to 18 months, which means in an acute situation we're in now, like China, that will not create a benefit. There's a major drug manufacturing facilities like, we're going to miss the boat on that one. Reduced, and we're seeing incredible amounts of how to avoid it, which is totally different than any other flu. Tokyo Olympic organizers have serious concern about the novel coronavirus threat. Serious concern. They're not laughing at all. And what does that say in the bottom? Visitors wearing surgical masks attend the opening ceremonies at an arena for Tokyo 2020 Olympics. They're not happy at all. The spread of the new coronavirus could throw cold water over the growing momentum. If you're not familiar with Tokyo should never be allowed to have the Olympics because they got multiple nuclear meltdowns and they're going to feed the people food from those areas. Kept increasing the radiation acceptable limits for 9 years. I'm a nuclear expert. I cover that all the time. I am seriously concerned. I hope this will be resolved as soon as possible. He cried at an organization of the games. They're not worried about China, not worried about the victims. Like, we gotta get our Olympics in Tokyo. It's gonna save us from nuclear meltdowns. Tokyo is unbelievable. China, up to now, would not buy any food or agricultural products or any other products, industrial products from all 14 prefectures north, including Tokyo, north of Tokyo. China wouldn't buy nothing. That'll tell you how radiated it actually is. Japanese government officials, including Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, a.k.a. Crazy, have said the government would work hard to minimize any impact. They're going to pick up 30 million one-ton bags of coronavirus. Well, not them, the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society. The immigrants who don't speak the language well, but they're not Japanese. Vaccines against the virus probably will be ready to start and listen to them. Oh yeah, they're going to have the vaccine to save the Olympics. You're going to have to wear your mask anywhere because you can get it again. There's not going to be no Olympics. Awesome. It's just a sports game, man. Worry about the poor Chinese. Take all those resources and send them down to Wuhan to help those poor victims. Adding he hoped there was enough time to build defenses. They're going to build a great wall around the Tokyo Olympics to save the Olympics for a bunch of pinheads. Shanghai sports authorities, and Shanghai is not a spot to be today, have recommended the suspension of all sporting events. So there's no Grand Prix, there's no anything going on. All sports in China are canceled until Z says it's cool again. Which in my book is, I don't see how they're going to resolve this. It's really, we got some, we'll just keep going through the headlines. We got so much, I can't even slow down. Shanghai sports authorities have recommended the suspension of all sporting events. So shut the hell up, Japan. China coronavirus. NHS hospital installed virus pods to isolate patients by the end of the month. They don't think it's going to go away. Every hospital in England is being asked to create priority assessment pods for patients with suspected. I was watching a video yesterday, and they had this lady and this man they thought had high temperatures because they were hitting them with the thermometer. They were wrapped up in their winter jackets and had their hoods down. They were rushing up the road, and they come here, I want you. And they put them in this box. I'm laughing because it's scary. And as they're driving away, you can hear them screaming, "Let me out, please!" It was like terrifying. Nobody comes out. The patients with suspected coronaviruses. Hey, yo, come here, I gotta take your temperature. Well, like that backfires on you too, right? if you take it outdoors, the temperature might be low because it's cold out. And when you go in through the malls and you take it, well, they came from outdoors to indoors, their temperature's going to rise up. They got winter jackets on. And it's not, you can only tell maybe 1% of the people are late stage of the people. Everybody else can still go all over everything. And we've seen them out there doing it, going around. Seen this one video yesterday. It was disgusting. It was like so many high-rise apartments there. And the owner of the apartments had put a whole bunch of masks in a literature pocket inside of an elevator, right, for the apartments. And here she was spitting on each one of them, putting them back there. There was like 100 while the elevator was descending. Like actual lunatics. Young China warns China coronavirus outbreak to hit. There's 400 companies I got a story on coming up. All the major ones, we've covered them now, have ran away. So Young China is big, and they got exclusives on Pizza Huts and Taco and KFC. 8,900 restaurants in 1,300 cities. Got to do without Kentucky Fried Chicken. There she is. There's the bad boy. Or girl, we're not sure. World Health scumbag, no offense to the scumbags, of course. World Health Organization seek $700 million for global coronavirus response. Invest today or pay more later. So you're putting all your eggs in one basket when you leave these people in charge of everything that happens out there. Like, they're so corrupt. They're so disgusting. Like, you should wash your hands every time you see one of them on TV, because that's how dirty these people are. I've been beating them up for years. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I got overwhelming evidence to say they're not even human. Disney could take $280 million hit from Chinese parks. Not could, will take $280 million. There'll be a lot more than that. I think they're going to open up again in a couple of weeks or something there at Disney. Due to shutdowns caused by the coronavirus. And we've just covered an absurd amount of those sites. Recent mass protests in Hong Kong. Careful, because they'll lock you up pretty quick too in a little while. You'll be go in your house and stay. Little drones flying around. Get back in your house, slave. Treasurer admits coronavirus will significantly affect the Australian economy. Like, they let their country burn to the ground for months rather than go buy a few more water bombers, rather than hire a few more pilots. Like, they're unbelievable. The people we allegedly put in charge always turn out to be demons. Freidenberg, nice Australian name there, buddy, says it's too early to tell what the economic impact coronavirus will have on Australia, but admits it's going to be significant. Dismissing speculation could be up to $1 billion per month. Per month. I wouldn't dismiss that one. I think I'd give 2-1 odds on that. This one is probably true. Dismissing speculation could be up to $1 billion a month. You got a large number of students, more than 200,000 from China last year, and 1.4 million tourists from China. Australia gets people from all over the world. Most Australians are great people, but the mining companies are unbelievable scumbags down there. This was a story where this was retracted, I believe. It doesn't mean it's not true, it just means that they were doing more work. No, this was another study about glycine and other adjectives were impairing the coronavirus replication. I can't remember it. But that was a 2016 study, that's right. And this was getting a bit of traction out there. But then when you look at the date on it, it's 2016. It might still, it still has certain facets that are usable are usable for today's. They're trying to come up with a vaccine. That's useful is what I'm saying. But you also got to realize it was 2016, which they didn't. I seen that showing up in the messaging rooms out there, and they weren't telling people it was a 2016 study. They were calling it a cure. But when I went and read it, it was actually 2016. Okay. 24,000 dead. 76,000 infected. 154,000 suspect. And 269 were critical. I can't remember. We'll get to it in a second. So, as many experts question the veracity of China's statistics for the Wuhan Coronavirus outbreak, Tencent, a website, over the weekend seemed to have inadvertently released what is potentially the actual number of infections and deaths, which were astronomically higher than the official figures, but does match up to the other independent studies we're seeing show up worldwide. Does match up to the overkill we see for quarantine, right? So these numbers that are coming up, 24,000 dead, that would account why we see countries quarantining ships with 2 people with the virus, right? That because it's such a deadly virus, that would actually make sense. What this number was originally when the official numbers were only 300. I'll bring it up the big screen for everybody, make it a little bit easier. And I do know that some of the trolls have been saying this show is not real time, that is fake, that I recorded it earlier. That's outrageous, anybody would say that. And let me get back to the other window. And so there's the comments section in real time. Let me do that again. At me this time. So here's the comments section in real time. How do I do that before the show starts? In real time, right? See what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, eh? Hi, Stephen. Hi, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Standing Foot. I'm just saying these are real shows. They're done in real time. I do all the work all day, all night, and then we sit here and we do the live show in real time. So anybody coming by knows it's a pertinent video. This is a real video. It's not a reposter of somewhere else or whatever. This is the actual site. It's producing the material. It's in real time. I always do it real time because I'm too lazy to shoot it and then upload it. Because equipment I'm using, the file is so big, it might take me half a day to upload it onto the internet. So it's better to shoot it in real time because I do all the work myself for many, many years. Anyway, let's get back to the story instead of Dana. How did we end up with Dana? So you have 2 sets of numbers, right? So the numbers are coming, they're not going to, how do I put this? They're not going to do that just to, we tricked you. Numbers are actually what the government's saying, what the repressive government is saying. Like if you were seen in an event and you were in a position where you could flash out the real numbers, you would do it, right? Because it's being repressed, it's suppressed. And then we started off the show talking about stuff like that. It's not a hard stretch. Now we got them. I seen the trolls were out there on other sites going, "Oh, it's photoshopped." Listen, this is a major event is playing out where we're seeing extraordinary measures that are unprecedented in human histories taking place. Those numbers over there are realistic numbers. And we have many studies from many major institutions and universities, many journals showing and alluding to those numbers, but some of them even projecting it to be much higher numbers, like 50,000 infected a day. And that would account for the repressive actions we see countries taking now to try to limit zero of it, getting utter panic. If you're in the know, why did 5 million people run away from their homes and communities and cities? Because they were in the know, right? And China has the Great China Wall firewire. It's a tongue twister, isn't it? Some are speculating a coding problem could be the cause of the real internal data to accidentally appear. No. The numbers are actually symmetrical. Right? Those numbers over there are symmetrical, same as these numbers. When, like, you know what I'm saying? There's no disproportionate percentage of numbers there. Except for the critical ill, which you know they downplayed all along. We talked about that earlier in the video. FBI arrest Harvard chemist. I can show you headlines where I got two different headlines of Harvard professors being arrested for extortion and for sodomizing students. Sex for grade, right? There's a lot of, just because they're professors don't mean they're not crazy. Well, when you're talking about Harvard or Yale University or Stanford University or Oxford University or MIT University, a lot of those people only got the job because they're batshit crazy. U.S. officials says Lieber signed a contract years earlier. Now, I'm showing you that story because a lot of people were saying they were arrested for something to do with the Wuhan virus. But if you actually go read the story, it's got nothing to do with it. That I can find anyway. And so I'm personally just going to disregard that part of the narrative that I see floating around out there because I can't quantify the statements that I'm seeing on the internet where they're saying, there's the proof, right? And so I went and read the study. There is no proof. Now you can go read it. You might find some proof. Let me know. I'll go investigate it again. But I'm showing it to you just to make sure it covers all bases. And I couldn't find any assertions there that back up the original lie. Tencent may have accidentally leaked real data on the Wuhan virus deaths. This was a story about the other story we just looked at. However, the internal data held by Beijing may not reflect the true extent of the epidemic, according to multiple sources in Ground Zero. Many coronavirus patients are unable to receive treatment and die outside of the hospitals. And severe shortage test kits also lead to a lower number of diagnosed cases of the infections and deaths. Which is what we talked about at the beginning of the show, was they don't have the equipment. They won't let people into the hospital because it's packed jam almost 2 weeks ago. In addition to many reports of doctors being ordered to list other forms of deaths instead of the coronavirus to keep the death toll artificially low, they're burning corpses at night too, right? Doctor strike, which is official, and if you just got a single crematorium burning 100 corpses, then what are the other ones doing? When you start adding it up, 24,000 is actually downplaying the number. Doctors strike back. Coronavirus fallout may provoke revolution of the professionals. But what's going to happen is Japan is going about the very best way of destroying the planet, also of losing power in the shortest time in human history. Dictators are going to lose power at the rate they're going, because people are not going to stay in their houses forever because they got some drone chasing them around. At some point, they're going to come out and knock the drone out of the sky, and they're going to knock the people out with the remote control in their hand while they're at it. China's response, because there's a lot more of them than there is of the police. China's response, which was late and then overwhelmingly quarantining overnight cities overnight, what they're alluding to there, they don't put into the equation is the 5 million that got out. So, but overnight they went up with a quarantine and people didn't know what was happening. It was late and overwhelming, quarantining overnight cities of more than 10 million people and constructing field hospitals in barely a week with prison cells for windows. In the early stages of the coronavirus, police in Wuhan dispatched summons to 8 people in the city and warned them about social media posts discussing the outbreak of viral pneumonia in the city. Police will investigate and punish anyone fabricating and spreading rumors except for them. Yes. So if they're going to do that, then they should go after all the public relation firms. I'll chip in on that one. Spreading rumors and disrupting social order. There is no social order. There's a thuggery. You have a one-party government and you have the inbreeding of the authorities for many decades. You don't actually have anybody there that gives a shit. All of them are coasting along in life. Now they got a real event there, and they're going to put all their eggs in one basket at the World Health Organization, and we all fall down. Turns out that 8 were doctors. So the 8 people that were being troublemakers were actually people that were trying to have a conversation, doing what they're supposed to do. One of them died yesterday, right? Suppressed information about the virus. So the people decided to try to get around it. And then they're watching everybody like, how dare you have a conversation about us? We're going to lock you up. This is what you call freedom. Is they're just anally watching everybody, waiting for somebody to say something so they can go and be thugs. That's not a government. That's not police. That's idiots and monsters. Once the government began to open up, once the government was forced to tell the truth about the virus, something that they had not planned to do because it could no longer be hidden, they did. The experts only had a few days earlier been warned to shut up. The doctors, now vindicated, have been giving interviews, sometimes from a sick bed. Now, he died, the one they're alluding to there. Supreme People's Courts, institution firmly in Beijing, an institution firmly under the control of the party, have been quick to chastise the Wuhan police, saying that even if the information in the doctor's chat group was not accurate, though they thought they were seeing a reappearance of SARS, it should not have been suppressed. It was suppressed so they can get the 5 million out of ground zero. No one doubted the 8 doctors were. No one was really going to say, well, they're being fearmongers. They all think they come across a new disease. No, they knew that they were accurate, and so they wanted to get their loved ones out because they're stupid and arrogant and pompous and hubris, dummies. The party state, I don't know why they call it a party for it, because they're just predators and vultures. Will not like it. But if they are to properly handle the next virus that spreads in China, I don't think there's going to be a next one. I think this is the big one. And threatens the economy. It doesn't threaten the economy. It threatens the very function of any facet of a country. The party might have to... Well, there's no... If you're in the Hubei province right now, you don't feel like you're a Chinese, I can guarantee you. You feel like you're being prosecuted and you're a victim. The solution is not to destroy everybody. Excuse me. A mini revolution. It amounts to a mini revolution if they were actually having a conversation. See? Does the new coronavirus spread silently? A lot of people who have mild diseases we covered this one back in the day, right? But they repeated it again anyway. You've got a lot of people who have a mild disease or asymptomatic, They're not seeking medical cure for respiratory illnesses, but are still contagious. You're going to have a difficult time. And then the solution, because it's such an unprecedented event, it's a weaponized virus as far as I can tell. They can't prove me wrong. No one knows for sure, see? And you have to assume the worst, because this is playing out like the worst. You got an empty city, then it's okay to try to look in different directions. To rule out anything means you're stupid. If you're not willing to be open-minded, then you're not going to contribute to the conversation. So much for quarantine. Passengers stranded on the coronavirus cruise ship chat over balconies as the number of people contracted the illness on board doubles. Yeah, because of recirculating air. There's lots of places on that ship that don't have windows, like berths, like rooms, cheap rooms or interior. You're going to be getting it. 10 more people on a cruise ship. That brought the number up to 20 at that stage. So we're catching up to 2 days of news, right? It's insane what we've dug up. We've still got endless headlines we're going to run through. So these people can cough on each other's balcony rails. They're going to put their hands on it, wipe their mouth, wipe their eye. You don't need to breathe it for 15 minutes. You wipe your hand there. And this is why they want you to wash your hands all the time, because you touch your mouth or touch your eyes. You don't have to poke yourself in the eye, leave your finger there 1001, 1002, 1000, all the way up to 15 minutes. Achoo, now you got it. No, oops. It replicates. So they're smuggling people off the ship. When you're taking people off the ship in an ambulance bed, instead of them walking off, you got yourself an epidemic. 10 more on cruise ship. Japan test positive. So what do? Get away from us. Get out there and drop your anchor. We want to have the Olympics. And they stopped everybody else from coming. The National Health Commission said another 3,694. They always do that, right, to keep the numbers. So if it's going to be close to 700, 3,700, they'll go 3,694. Just round it off. No one cares if you round it off by a few numbers. Were reported throughout the country on February the 5th, bringing the total to 28,000. But then they show this. Again, this gets thrown out there. Crazy. Amid coronavirus epidemic, the phone makers hang up on the Mobile World Congress. Organizers call for a no handshake policy. You should cancel it, because everybody's still going to be going around touching everything. They'll sneeze over something and somebody else is going to touch it. Because that's what's going on. Because there's a lot of money there, a lot of influential people are going to be there. They're just going to go ahead and say, no handshaking, okay? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. No business cards transaction. This decision removes the risk of exposing hundreds of the LG employees. No, don't. They're going to be passing out, touching things, passing out cards, blah, 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 blah. And we're talking to people. The air fills up with it, right? It's not like that's one single time there's a bit of it comes out of you. If you're there lingering around, the masks are not airproof, right? They're not going to 100% keep everything in on top of that. Each year, more than 100,000 people flock to Barcelona's expansive exhibition center from around the world to demonstrate their greatest, bestest, smartest phones. It attracted companies in all segments, blah, 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 and infrastructures. A Chinese Communist Party affiliated newspaper has published the first semi-official response to reports the virus from Wuhan may have been produced in a government laboratory. I think that one needs the big screen, Dana. China denies lab linked to coronavirus as questions of its origin are doubted. I forgot to double click it, obviously. My apologies. Chinese Communist party-affiliated newspaper published the first semi-official response to reports that the virus from Wuhan may have been produced in a government laboratory. Was not caused by the natural transmission of an animal virus to human. Well, if it was caused by that, we would have seen examples of that before, right? Of its, what made it so lethal, see? So, on the flip side, just imagine if the numbers of 50,000 a day being infected were real. Well, then you would have a flu that only has like 0.0001 death rate, right? That'd be a good thing. I got a harmless flu flying around. And then we have studies showing the death rate could be up to 11%. That's all I'm saying. Just like, you got to think about it rationally. Dana, keep it rolling. Which house is China's sole level 4 secure laboratory was in Wuhan? The only level 4 there. So what they're saying is it must come from a level 4, not a level 3 or a level 2. It absolutely must have come from a level 4. Why are you saying that? Because it's so contagious. Because it has so many attributes that make it so dangerous. They lock down an entire province to sacrifice it. Sorry, man. No rubber gloves for you. No food for you. No love for you. Spread of disinformation. What about love in today's age of coronavirus? Are people going to stop dating now and everything else? The spread of disinformation is destructive and risks creating panic. It's not disinformation. I didn't tell them to quarantine big ships because there's a couple of people might have the flu. All the information is coming from you guys. You're the disinformation if that's the case. But the statistics don't show this as disinformation. The statistics and the actual paranoia from the governments and institutions and universities and medias. Tesla, by the way, is closing down their shops. Baby tests positive, 30 hours. Originally, the baby never tests positive. We should have known the baby was going to test positive when the mother was positive. X-ray the baby's chest. Like, you definitely shouldn't be X-raying a baby. Shouldn't be X-raying anybody. You should be using really strong lights with algorithms that would mimic an X-ray. Because an X-ray has incredible harmful. 2 X-rays on a pregnant woman, 60% chance the baby is going to be born retarded or with incredible illnesses and diseases. X-rays shouldn't exist. It's a very harmful thing to do. And they have technology, like the rich people don't get X-rays, they get the high penetrating light. You can get lights a long time ago shine right through your hand, you take a picture of it, right? You can take a picture of the sun. With these filters, you can do the same thing with a human, right? Coronavirus latest one championship, which is mixed martial arts, ISPO, Nike stores, and more are bailing on Beijing and China. Beijing authorities have cancelled all large-scale events, all of them. You see 3, you sit down, they'll cancel that too. Going around spraying disinfectant is just like in a gaseous form. It's totally foreign to everybody. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. That should worry you, see. And they call you fear-mongering when you see people going around with, you see 5 great big 10-ton trucks with industrial sprayers going down the road. You can't see 8-story high apartment buildings. And you're a fear-monger wondering why they're doing it. There could be something wrong. Fear-monger! Yeah, but there's 5 trucks. Fear-monger! You're disrupting social order. You better watch it. I'll report you. Yeah, but they're spraying stuff. Police! We have somebody has a descending opinion. Come down and bait them into submission. 3 more locally transmitted coronavirus cases in Singapore with a 6-month-old baby. 3 linked to China tour group. There's 5 million people got it. We expect to see all kinds of weird stuff showing up, and we do. China reports 3,694. That was yesterday. Cases of novel coronavirus infections. 73 new deaths. You keep seeing all these weird numbers. They change the numbers constantly. And another 5,300 suspected cases on Wednesday. 5,300 is an incredible discrepancy from what you're hearing from other medias. 3,859 patients remain in severe condition. See what that statement there? 4,000 in severe condition, which is considered a critical condition without all kinds of medical equipment. Staggering numbers. 186,000 others are under medical observation. Yeah, and then there's 60 million of them that are told to go in their house and don't stick their nose outdoors. And if you're on a plane and you don't get infected, you should start buying lottery tickets. Airlines tells 27,000 employees to take unpaid leave amid the coronavirus hysteria. Like if you're telling 27,000 employees to take a leave without pay, that's the hysterical ones. The 27,000 employees were like, come on, give me a week off with no pay. I said he switched it. You see how grammar can work against you? Make you look like a bad guy. That's crazy though that the airlines want you to take a week off. It shows you how fragile the airlines are that they can't pay you for a few days off. Well, it's not. You're not taking a week off, see? Take unpaid leave. You're not coming back. They know it. That's why they're doing it that way. They're not stupid. Hong Kong flagship carrier Cathay Pacific has asked its entire workforce to take up to 3 weeks of unpaid leave. 3 weeks while an epidemic is starting. On the flip side, you got to get the planes out of the sky at some point. They also said, asked suppliers to reduce their prices. They said the airlines would make short-term adjustments to capacity. They just got rid of the entire workforce, including an already announced move to cut flights 30% worldwide for 2 months and a 90% cut to mainland China. No offense, China. Will take extreme measures in order to prevent any risks of blood. This story was missed the headline. But anyway, a blood bank is going to protect your blood stocks. That's a scary thought too, right? So the people that are donating might have coronavirus. You can see how this can go south in a hurry. Watching a video of a lady yesterday passed out on top of the vegetables. They get really weak, and they pass out. Some do die in the streets. We've seen those videos too. A lot of them are passing out, getting close to die. Coronavirus, China like an apocalypse amid outbreak. Departing New Zealanders said. Look at this here, above, right underneath my video. See that? The World Health Organization is underneath, and then the title of my video is moved down. That's what's true with all of my videos about it, every one of them. That first one was shock, so there it is again. Shock. So I went over to the site, and this is what they got there. They're not the arbiter of fact. In fact, they don't use any facts. They're there to help China cover up. So each one of my videos, they got a link right below it. Disgusting. That's disgusting they done that. Each one of my videos, they've stuck those, and I've seen that on endless videos. I read mostly articles, but I do watch a lot of videos in the background, and it showed up everywhere. She got a scarf on. She got her heavy jacket on. She's lugging luggage. She's rushing down there. Now, come here. Well, no, you've got to go into quarantine. You got a bit of a temperature. No, I got a big jacket on. I was hurrying. I have none of that. You're going into quarantine. Scary. Wuhan Coronavirus crematoriums. Workers working 24/7, burning 100 bodies a day. That's at each of these places. And now they're saying there's 60 died today. And the numbers are going down a little bit. Meanwhile, you got on the ground. So they got more than one crematorium. And then what they're claiming is what you're seeing. Smog is from burning all the bodies because they closed all the industries, right? Chinese crematoriums working 24/7. They burn bodies of people killed by the coronavirus. In Wuhan has been claimed. Workers are reportedly working flat out without break as they are constantly sent the bodies of the victims. It's a terrifying story, by the way. It's claimed they have been burning 100 bodies a day since January the 28th. January the 28th. That's a tough video. Dead bodies on the floor and people in wheelchairs. I wouldn't want to be in that room, let alone, wouldn't want to be taking a picture, let alone in that room in a wheelchair. My heart goes out to the victims. 90% of the employees are working 24/7. We couldn't go back home. Chillingly, he claimed, all Wuhan cremation chambers are working 24 hours. He said, we need more manpower. All the connotations of these stories are adding up to let's say there's 10 crematoriums burning 1,000 people a day. Young claimed he had spoken to other crematorium workers who are all in the same situation. It's a small fraternity. Oh, hey, you running there with all that heavy clothes on. Come here, I gotta check your temperature. Well, I'm a little hot because I got all the clothes on. No, I don't have none of that. You're going into Wuhan. Fiat Chrysler says coronavirus could close European factories because of parts, right? Which is what we've seen happening today. China and Cambodia love in the time of coronavirus. Yeah, they're banning, which is one of their favorite hangouts for Chinese, was Cambodia. There's 3,000 travelers from Wuhan flown into Cambodia since the epidemic was announced. 5 million got out of Wuhan, right? And then 5 million would have got out of the other cities each too. It wasn't just Wuhan. But Wuhan is put out there. All the other cities are like they don't exist, you know? When you see any symbolic scenes like this, you're talking about a serious event. Coronavirus, China tightens social media censorship amid the outbreak. The Great Firewall of China. And so they can only look on their local networks in their country, unless they got a VPN, virtual private internet. Then they can. China Internet Watchdog is tightening control. Well, it's throttling control of the social media. They control the social media. The social media censors everybody as it is, and then they censor social media. It's unbelievable. It's a terrible. There's no good outcome when you live like that. There's not, right? The regulators, there's no such thing as a regulator. The Inbreeds said it required internet platforms, local authorities to create a good cyberspace environment to win the battle against the coronavirus epidemic. In other words, don't tell anybody else what's going up, because like on Monday, China's stocks went down $379 billion USD, right? So they want to control the information so people can't pull their money before they steal it from them. Because that's how that works. That's actually how it works. That's how that works. Get that a little bit closer, Dana. Closer. The regulator said it required we don't know one. Watchdog said it has removed a social app called PP, who knows what that is, from app stores for posting harmful videos and spreading fear and panic about the coronavirus outbreak, as well as taking down some media and blogger accounts for fake news, which is what they've done to the doctors, right? Fake news turned out to be real. So, like, they don't want the videos that we're seeing trickling out of them spraying the city or dead bodies on the side of the road or in stores and places like this. They don't want to see anything that might get you to pull your business out of their country. Step up propaganda and strengthen online media control to maintain social stability. They're doing the very worst thing they can do. By lying to everybody, they're just digging a deep hole before they have a typhoon, and they're all going to be stuck in this hole swimming in circles. State-run news media, commercial news outlets have been told the news, the media, the TVs, they want you to focus on the good side of the story, like relief efforts or something. So they're definitely got all the symptoms of out of control the government is. China refutes allegations of higher fatalities as the coronavirus death toll rises to 564. So they give you several days old numbers. Wednesday, 73 people died, the highest casualty in a single day. It wasn't, it was over 100. Due to the virus, that was official, but we got crematoriums burning each 100 bodies a day. We got studies showing there's probably 50,000 a day being infected. And so when you actually scale it up and look at the real numbers, they're just unbelievable. They called a prison a hospital. These buildings they built over the last 2 weeks are prisons. They're not hospitals. They're for human experiments. We've actually covered those headlines at the beginning of the show. A 1,500-bed makeshift hospital. So when you build 2,300 hospital beds, not counting the stadiums and hotels and everything else they're filling up with people, and all 15 hospitals in Wuhan are filled and polluted with the coronavirus. I got a study about that coming up. These are extraordinary measures. These are desperate measures. And so to say that anybody is fear-mongering is not true. They're just trying to silence everybody. Chinese city accused of stealing surgical mask. So they went out and they intercepted, and a buddy got caught apparently and got reprimanded for it. And they stole the masks and other equipment that was coming into their city. So when you see this picture here, this is craziness. Where they're going around, this is what they call disinfecting, right? It's nothing like it. For the flu? Does this look like a flu to you? This is a weaponized flu. A 4-team women's Olympic qualifying tournament involving China, Australia, Taiwan, Thailand was moved from Wuhan and arranged to be held in Australia. And the doctor who alerted the public to the outbreak is in critical condition, hospital confirmed. That was yesterday, February 6th. After he was dead, Yahoo came out with that headline. He was already dead, see? No, he's not dead. He's in critical condition, though. No, he was dead. And when is that acceptable? When is lying to everybody like this constantly acceptable? Because people usually read 1 or 2 articles in a day, if at best, right? But when you start looking at all the articles, you see constant lies. That doesn't alarm you? Coronavirus could cost Australian universities billions. We covered that earlier. We'll keep going. Correcting conspiracy theories about the coronavirus may backfire. So unless you regurgitate their narrative, if you do any speculating whatsoever, you get derogatory connotations like conspiracy theories. It's a conspiracy theory that there's actual journalists out there anywhere on the planet. That's an actual conspiracy theory. Dr. Lim, who is Senior Vice President of Australia's Chinese Medical Association. So people can share rumors and ill-advised advice online without the intentions of harming others. And they can't, because they get all the platforms. They just regurgitate deception and lies and misrepresentations constantly. And you're seeing pictures like this for the flu. These are extraordinary things. Coronavirus, China's Hubei province reported 69 new virus deaths. Now, if you're riding a bicycle, what's the chance you're going to be a little bit overheated? You get where I'm coming from? There have been a further, see, that's today's numbers. Talking today, it's only 2,400 cases. Somehow, magically, with no help from the outside world, and that one facet of increase of contamination is going down in the last 3 days. All the other numbers are going up. So it just magically burned themselves out, but they're not claiming that. They're not saying that. It's just if when official numbers, that's the only time we're seeing that show up in the narratives whatsoever. Coronavirus could delay the PlayStation 5 and Xbox console launches. You see, company after company after company after company, which under normal circumstances would be considered like stupidest decision you can make, making those decisions. We're seeing a repercussion from this design. We've never heard tell of anything like it. The ongoing coronavirus outbreak could see next generation console launches constrained or even delayed. Half the planet will have seizures if they don't get their Xboxes on time. As of midnight Wednesday, China's National Health Commission said there was 28,000 confirmed coronaviruses, while there was actually and 24,000 suspected. We see numbers earlier of 170,000 suspected and 31,000 plus. And that's Tencent website. They're a well-known website. They're saying now the Nintendo Switch is not going to be delayed, but of course it will be. There's medical equipment being shipped from America. Change of plans. The Irish hockey team for the Olympics cancels the crucial Olympic training camp in Malaysia. Over the coronavirus fears. They're in the know, see? China's like, no, or Japan's like, no, you got to get out of there. Well, we can't tell you why, but you better get out of there. We want to have that Olympics. They'll kill the whole planet so they can have the Olympics in Japan. The most radiated place in human history from the ongoing nuclear meltdowns. Camp was due to act as an important part of the site preparation for the Olympics in Japan this summer. There ain't going to be no Olympics. But they're just trying to keep everybody in the dark where they steal and loot as much as they can before it comes out what's going to happen. Coronavirus, rice, toilet papers, dry goods fly off the shelves as rumors spark panic buying in Hong Kong. And I've seen the media come out chastising people in that country, which they're not from, by the way, for going out and buying, saying, no, there's lots of food, don't panic. When everybody's telling them to panic, they're like, don't panic. 2 cruise ships are isolated, by the way, in Japan, not one. One of them's got 61 confirmed cases, which is bad news as it gets. Right? And then they give you a low number. That's yesterday's headlines or last night's headlines. They're going around like, I don't know, you're on the borderline. 50,000 new infections per day. And that study is from Imperial College in the UK. There's a lot of scumbags at that college, and I don't think they would get the opportunity, any of them, to come out and fake the number, like drive the number up. The worst I would expect from them people, because I've covered Imperial College before, and many of their academic studies, like Geraldine Thomas and that. And so for them to show up and say 50,000, their models show 50,000, and that's even put up on Yahoo, and nobody's calling them kooky or conspiracy theorists or anything else. Kim Kardashian wears face mask. She looks more like the pig that she actually is with that on. I'm sure she's a nice person, but she shouldn't be doing that. You know how big of a following she got? That's why I'm saying stuff like that. China should censor her instead of me. I'm a dreamer, I know. Cruise ships, detention centers, seaside resorts and motels, and internment camps is what they are. Cruise ships are internment camps, detention centers, seaside resorts, and motels. You still got your prisoner. You're still a prisoner. Once you go in the door, you're get ready for lots of abuse. Italy is keeping people at a military base in Rome. Yeah. The U.S. has quarantined hundreds of citizens on military bases. You notice this over and over and over, the word military bases for quarantine sites for many countries around the world. Canada is going to quarantine people in a motel. They'll receive mental health services. I'm from Canada. They're such scum. Poor victims, what I think about all the time. UK evacuees are being quarantined at a hospital in northwest England, and if you won't let them quarantine you, they'll arrest you. And Lysol, big conspiracy about Lysol is they knew about it because it says on the bottle it can kill coronavirus. But there's many different coronaviruses, and so they were using it on the other outbreaks like SARS and MERS and that. I think there's 19 or something. And so we don't know for sure, but we assume that would work on the new coronavirus. But also just washing your hands with soap works on the virus. Apparently, I don't know if it's true, but this is what they're saying. Like, I don't believe much of these people. I like to research everything. It's just because we caught them in so many lies. It's not like I like doing all the extra work, trust me. Second flight carrying 11 British citizens arrived this week. Passengers were told that an infected patient was on board. And so they had 4 or 5 buses. They had police with the lights going down the highway. Everybody's taking their pictures. So they're trying to terrify the population on purpose, or they're terrified of what they're seeing, which is most likely what's happening, right? When you segregate, isolate, and quarantine ships with 5 or 6 or 7,000 people on board because there's 2 there might be sick, then there's something else in the picture they're not telling you. And you better start paying attention, because this ain't nothing. This is as weird as it gets. Every facet of this story is as spooky and as weird and freakish as I've ever heard tell of. 180 French passengers are being held at a seaside resort with volleyball courts, art classes, which sounds a hell of a lot better than detention centers and internment camps, don't it? 3,600 passenger crew members trapped at the World Dream cruise ship at a port in Hong Kong. So we're seeing extraordinary measures. More than 300 Bangladeshi nationals were evacuated from Wuhan on February the 1st and transported to a facility for Muslim pilgrims in Dhaka. So we're seeing them segregated totally away from populations under extreme rendition policies. Indian nationals are playing games inside a quarantine facility in New Delhi over and over again. Like, we don't even care if you're sick now. We're quarantining you if you're coming into the country. That's about to go worldwide within the next 7 days. Every country is going to have that policy. Every country. Does that not make you say, they're probably not telling me something that they should be? And they got a legacy of withholding information in every country. Indonesians evacuated 230 students who quarantined on a remote island. We're seeing that, like Australia's doing that, and there's another couple of countries that are doing that. And they're doing that is because they're terrified of that virus. It's not like a flu, see? It doesn't have the attributes of a typical flu. When you close down events, every major event in your country, they're withholding more information, obviously. You have to assume that. You cannot drop your guard on this one. Around 36 Algerian nationals, mostly students, are being quarantined in a hotel. They won't be eating like that. Thousands of people quarantined on a Japanese crew liner after 21 passengers, but now it's up to 61, right? Which means now the ship is infected, the air ducts are infected. Japan is also chartering a ferry to hold people suspected of carrying the coronavirus. So they're trying to keep people off. Over and over, we're seeing these connotations where they're trying to keep people like away from their country, somewhere else, far away. There's no way for the virus to get there. Scary. Everything about this story is just terrifying. People who eventually get quarantined on the ferry will have access to Wi-Fi. Great China. Or no, that's Japan. And a tablet computer. A Japanese defense official told Reuters. Scumbag Reuters. 270 citizens were taken to permanent residents were taken to an immigration detention center on Christmas Island, right? That's Australia on Christmas Island. So again, over and over and over and over, we've seen many of that now, where they're keeping them away, totally away from the land. You can't swim there either, because this is unbelievably dangerous. See? And I was watching a video this morning that made me sick. It was this person, somebody had him on a cell phone camera, and a person was there in medical system picking him up. The video like 3 minutes long. Just evil. That's evil. You got to go up and grab them by the back of their head, just tear them off their feet and drag them out of the shop, and then step on their throat and call the police. These are evil people. Mainland China reports 73. I'm not saying do that. I'm saying that the store owners have every right to do something like that. Mainland China reports 73 new coronavirus deaths on February 6th. 636. Now the numbers tonight are 717 or so, which are absolutely unequivocally not true numbers. They're way higher than that. Across mainland China, 3,143 yesterday, bringing the total to 31,000 yesterday. But those numbers we know. And so these handrails are going to be unbelievably infected. Don't want to be grabbing handrails. They're not even cleaning them, by the way. China tightens Wuhan lockdown. Internment camp. The whole province is an internment camp. In wartime battle with coronavirus, China intensified the lockdown in Wuhan with house-to-house searches, mass internments at makeshift quarantine centers. Makeshift. Yeah, we entered martial law. Chinese authority resorted to increasingly extreme measures in Wuhan on Thursday to halt the spread. In other words, they're panicking. The numbers shouldn't be going down. The numbers should be going up because they're increasingly extreme measures. Because the numbers are not going down. See? If the numbers were going down, they wouldn't be doing stuff like that. To try to halt the spread of the deadly coronavirus, ordering house-to-house searches, rounding up the sick and warehousing them in enormous coronavirus factories, aka quarantine centers. The death rate from the coronavirus of 4.1% as of Thursday. We got a study showing 11%. The reason we're seeing all of the discrepancies in numbers is because you're communicating with a country of over 1 billion people, and they're getting different official numbers from different agencies. And all the numbers are supposed to downplay the severity. And so therefore, you're not going to get a symmetrical number throughout the country, but you're going to get close to it, right? You would hope. Discrepancy is so large. Every facet of this points to we're in a lot of trouble. We're seeing them worldwide in utter panic, and it's not us that's doing it. They've done it to us, right? Because we recognize they're lying to us, and that will cause us to panic. And it'll only escalate from there because we'll start digging like I've done, and we come up with so much supporting documentation to destroy their narrative with, then they become very dangerous, right? They're becoming very dangerous with their lies, and they're jeopardizing the entire ecosystem with their lies. The city and country face wartime condition. Must be no deserters. This is Mrs. Sun. She's in charge. Or they will be nailed to the pillars of historical shame forever. I'll go back one. Threatens to paralyze China. And so what she's saying is you've got to lock down Wuhan and other districts, and nobody's allowed out. And so they do have a shoot-to-kill policy, right? We've seen examples of that over the last number of shows. Enforcing the new restrictions took on an aspect of the military campaign, as Mrs. Sung ordered medical workers to mobilize into round-the-clock shifts to visit each home in Wuhan, a city of originally 11 million people with only about 6 million left, and check the temperatures of all residents and interviews close contacts of any infected patients. What you're talking about is not a flu. This is a weaponized virus. Wherever it come from, we don't know. But if you want to you want to destroy a country, this is definitely one way you can do it. And if you look at the art of war, one of the things you do is you never tell your enemy what you're up to. Going around spraying everything. A further 41 passengers tested positive, this was last night's headline, on cruise ships in Japan. Notice how they hide people when you bring them off the ship? Because people on the ship are looking at the window going, didn't we have dinner with him last night, honey? Or they're dead. World Health crazies. No known effective treatment for the new coronavirus. They only come on board after Bill Gates gave them $100 million, and all the media put them up on a plug for another $500 million. You're insane. You put all your eggs in your one basket, you were over and over and over like we've done with the World Health. There is no World Health Organization, by the way. They're not a health organ. There's no such thing. They're a corporation designed to interact with other countries. Originally, that was the theory. What it was is they were the good old boys club being control opposition. So you don't do things yourself. No known effective treatment for the coronavirus. But we sure as hell know how to put you in an internment camp. Britain's Sky News said researchers made a significant breakthrough in developing a vaccine. Oh, well, that's great. And then oil prices jumped as soon as that came out. And then who has a lot of money in stocks? Same company, probably, right? You can't believe them because otherwise that would have showed up everywhere. It would have been an incredible rush like a zombie horde. Get more detail, but they don't show up with any more detail. Just these random headlines show up. And the people that got that job, man, that's a brute. They need countries to send them supplies, and countries are not doing it. They're hoarding it for themselves. What does that tell you? China's coronavirus outbreaks killed 637 yesterday. Affects more than 31,400 as the world struggles for a cure. There is no cure. Cure is like Bill Gates is like 5 years away. At least 5 years for getting a vaccine. Maybe 6. Oh, joy. You got to understand who Bill Gates really is. Vaccinated all of India and Pakistan for 2 years. Polio, where there's thousands of children dying every day of dysentery, diarrhea, pneumonia in Africa. So tell me who's trying to help who. The Chinese government tried to cover up the coronavirus's whistleblowers' death. And they did, and they continued for like half a day. And they're like, yeah, we done it. What are you going to do about it? Destruction of hospital for novel coronavirus patients on their way in Harbin. Harbin is the second largest city by urban population in China. Northeast China it's located. There's around 30 million people altogether when you count surrounding municipalities. So it's spreading big time. That whole province is being sacrificed, right? World Health Organization plays down dip in daily infection rate, saying it might not mean an outbreak has peaked. No, they were looking for street creds. World Health Organization on Thursday, they always do that, right? Every organization out there will do stuff like that. No, don't drop the guard yet. Well, you didn't even pick up the guard till a few days ago. When Bill Gates gave you $100 million, then you actually got your foot in the door. You're still with the other foot outdoors, so shut up. I'm just so much contempt for that organization from their legacy. It's not unwarranted. Reading too much into the data has shown a dip in daily new coronavirus infection in China after the figure had surged for weeks. Yeah, they're looking for street creds, right? So mathematical models, this is from the Imperial College, that this is a Yahoo article I was alluding to earlier, suggests as many as 50,000 new infections a day may be occurring in China. So 50,000 new infections a day may be occurring in China. Again, we're seeing that, and it's not challenged. They're not like kooky conspiracy theorists from Imperial College at all. Right? Yeah, maybe. I've been really sick for 2 days. Not the flu. You don't stick me into a quarantine internment camp, please. Just not feeling good. I'm burnt out. I don't stop. It's a one-man show. I work nonstop, relentlessly. And it's a difficult thing that I do every day. I'm doing it because I understand we got to have somebody out there that's honest. Unfortunately, I got a right fake personality that goes with it. The Imperial College professor says the epidemic in China may be doubling in size every 5 days. Woo! Big numbers. Chinese nurses share pictures of how their faces look after countless hours fighting the coronavirus. I'm going to bring this up to the big shot full screen. Big shot full screen. I'll put my face up there. I don't look so bad alongside of these poor victims. Okay, I'll get out of there. But look at their faces from wearing face masks non-stop all day, every day. And so you can see how the infection can get in their body a little bit easier because they have these open cuts on their faces, right? And so there's a study coming up about this. Bless their hearts. Like, that's unbelievable. So if everybody worldwide got to wear these full time, then you know, and that tells you how bad it is. They're tying us super tight, right? They're doubling up on the masks and stuff like that. You're getting off a plane. Guess where you get to meet the guys in white. Can China's internet censors block the coronavirus? No. China's 21st century propagandists can't easily write the news the way their 20th century forebears could, but they can have more effectively shape it. Criticisms of the government's handling of the coronavirus outbreak can be muted, while criticism of the foreign government's travel ban is amplified. which is interesting, really, because they're criticizing the travel ban, why they quarantine 60 million people and they can't even leave their houses. What? You're not going to let us live in your countries? You savages. Meanwhile, they got 60 million people. They come outdoors. Whoosh, get back in your house, slave. Suck up that coronavirus. Great Firewall, the website, restrictions that turn the Chinese internet into a national intranet, prevents Chinese browsers from accessing Google, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, you name it. Western news and opinions websites are blocked. Don't panic over the coronavirus, says UK Sussex MP. But guess what? A few minutes later, this headline comes out. Blanket ban for coronavirus. UK set to ban all travelers from China within a week. All of them. And travelers from China who refuse quarantine go to jail. So this could, this has, I wish this was a normal flu. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I wasn't originally. I was watching it as it was starting to show up. And I was like, oh shit, I better get up to speed. And if I'm wrong, well, big whoop, I'm wrong, right? But if I'm not wrong, then we are well ahead of the game that they're going to pull on everybody, and we might be able to beat them to it. And if we don't have someone like me out there that's honest, and that is bringing you all the information and trying to have a real look at it, because I go through a lot of work, then if I don't do it and I don't see anybody else doing it, then that's not right. So it's okay for me to divert myself away from nuclear, which is what I cover usually exclusively, to go down this path, because this is very similar in the way the media handled it. Anyway, lies. China expresses condolences over the doctor's death. But we seen him earlier where they like, no, he didn't die. That's a lie. That's a lie. See, the oil companies, their prices are going down to numbers that are terrifying them. Don't think they won't get the media to come out and tell you lies and tell you not to worry. It's all okay. 8 Americans on the Princess Cruise test positive for coronavirus. Guam bars hauling an American ship. Right, so now we see another cruise ship being barred. Guam denied entry to a ship over coronavirus concerns. The third time the ship has been turned away from a port on top of this. The Philippines and Japanese also denied the MS Westerdam entry. According to the cruise line, there was no known cases of coronavirus on the board, despite the reports to the contrary. And they were not in a quarantine. They can't get a country to accept them because everybody's panicking. Why are they panicking? They're telling you not to panic, but we see all of them panicking, right? This is what I'm saying. We're seeing just unbelievable panicking. And I'm censored beyond anything conceivable. Because I bring a real platform, a real show, the real deal. And if I'm lucky barely to get 2,000 or 3,000 views on a video. And it's usually like a set number. I won't go past it. Coronavirus, 40 staff in single Wuhan hospital infected. You got everybody else out there who don't know what they're talking about. 60, 70, 200 million views. People like me. And if you don't share me, there's zero possibility I'm going to find my way out there into the real world. But my numbers won't reflect it, but at least the information gets out there. In fact, these videos are free to repost. You don't have to use my name. You don't have to link back to my site. You don't have to use the title. Particularly, don't do that. Just some guy on the internet and stick me out there all over the place so everybody else can get educated and get up to speed and can make informed decisions. 40 staffs in single Wuhan hospital infected, study shows. 40 staff were infected in the hospital. A study from Wuhan, by the way. 40 healthcare workers infected with the novel coronavirus by a patient at a single Wuhan hospital. A new study is found, which there's 15 hospitals in Wuhan, underscoring the risk to those at the front line of the growing epidemic. One patient was admitted to the surgical department, was presumed to have infected 10 healthcare workers, according to the paper authored by doctors at Wuhan University and published in the Journal of American Medical Association on Friday today. 17 patients were hospitalized for other reasons, also became infected by the coronavirus. So you went there with something else and you got infected. And a total of 138 patients were infected who were in the hospital for something else. It's airborne and it's contagious. It's a threat, and you should treat it with that dignity and noble respect that it deserves. Coronavirus, Ethiopia had to quarantine all Wuhan passengers, and Cameroon at the same time praises, which is UK, right? Praises China. Wuhan facing wartime conditions. They're setting the stage now for draconian measures as China tries to contain the coronavirus. And so when you got random people doing that, that's the opposite of medical. So she's got a face mask on, she got her winter jacket on, she got winter clothing on. And then, so her temperature might be just cold, right? Because she's outdoors. Or it might be hot because she's Russian. Not Rushki like the Rushkis, but Russian. Rushing, Dana. Yeah, no. I like the way I say it better. Russian. It's my accent. Nothing I can do better. Coronavirus, everything you need to know about the novel coronavirus. I wouldn't even claim that. I'm at it nonstop. Everything you need to know. I've seen that headlines in the mainstream media out there. You watch the video like, I feel stupid. Hong Kong police officer caught taking face masks to his families in the official vehicle is facing disciplinary actions. China's Xi faces a battle for authority over the coronavirus crisis. Right, because you can only lock people up so long before they got to come out of their holes. And so the doctor who died, death has brought attention to the government's early attempts to cover up the outbreak. What we're seeing is the government is, because they're lying, they're manipulating, they're being deceptive and deceitful and dishonest and disingenuous, and they're quarantining everybody, and they're being abusive, like with the drones net, then eventually people will turn on them, and it's just going to go south. There's no way to contain it. See? Censorship means many may not know that the Chinese authorities were already aware that the coronavirus infected human beings in early December. They knew about it in December. And Jackie Chan is offering 142,000 USD prize. Anyone can figure out a cure. You can figure out a cure, you make a lot more money in that. But it's meant to boost people to think, and it's a good thing. Unless you've been living in a cave for the past month or so, you're probably aware that the world is currently experiencing a bit of an issue in the form of yet another deadly disease that can trace its origins back to China. And if you have indeed been living in a cave, you might want to go back inside and stay there until the whole bloody thing blows over. After previously introducing the world to the untreatable strains of bird flu and SARS, China gave us a brand new superbug to ring in the decade. And after a few weeks, it became clear they had a serious problem on their hands. The government eventually put the city of 11 million people under quarantine, but not before 5 million of them left the contained area. Score. Nice call, mister. 11 million people under quarantine, but not before 5 million had bailed from Dodge. Coronavirus Hong Kong students and civil servants asked to help monitor people returning from mainland China. This is going to go bad. Hey, you and you and you and you and you. Come on, I got a good job for you. I want you to go around taking people's temperatures. And you get to kick them in the butt if they got sick. Forbes, disgusting, despicable scum. Forbes. Over 400 companies have warned of the impact coronavirus could have on their first quarter earnings. Last month, not this money this week, but the money before, was $500 billion went down in the stock markets because of this. But Forbes is really is a virus. Forbes is a plague. I want freedom of speech. China censors hashtag after coronavirus doctor's death sparks anger. Wuhan City Central Hospital now confirmed that Li Wei-lang, doctor who sounded alarm on a novel coronavirus only to be silenced by police for spreading the rumor, has died. It's 5 a.m. in China. This was a few hours ago. Many people did not sleep tonight. Hashtag I want freedom of speech started a trend on Weibo from 1 a.m. Now has nearly 2 million views. Search freedom of speech only showing posts say freedom of speech is bad now. That's the only. So it was trending freedom of speech. I want freedom of speech. They got rid of that completely, and the only thing that shows up when you look for it is freedom of speech is bad. Censorship is whoever got the jobs, you're actual monsters. The true cost of China's coronavirus cover-up and how state censorship let the outbreak spread. The outbreak has brought a large swath of the world's second largest economy. I'll turn that down. That's the end of the show. And undermines the community party's aura of competence. That's the music you play when you think it's censorship. Bunch of bubbling, mindless, drone-like idiots. God bless everybody. Hugs for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Cancer Radio. Hey, buddy. How's it going, man? See, you got 1 million subscribers. You flew out there, didn't you? So if you got a Twitter, by all means, give us a little share. Costs us very little and it goes really, 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 really far. If you got a Facebook, give us a share out there. They'll probably censor you like they censor me. You can share, like, join, follow, blah, 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 blah. And there's all kinds of ways to make the world better. We're trying our best on YouTube by educating everybody and getting you up to speed. God bless everybody. We'll see everybody. See everybody on the next show. The media never stops. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Hugs and loves for everybody. God bless everyone. Take care now. We'll see you soon.